Hey guys, Project Mommy here. So yesterday I met an amazing group of women who are also first-time mommies, and we got to talking about many different subject matters of importance to all first-time mommies out there. So I want to take the time to share a couple of them with you. I want to go in order just to keep everything a little bit organized because there's so many topics to talk about and so little time to talk about each and every one of them. So the first topic that we talked about was actually going into labor. There were four of us at the meetup that had actually already given birth to our first children. So the other ladies were kind of asking us about our experiences and whatnot. So I kind of want to share my experience, my own personal experience with you. Now, just to be, just to cover all my bases, not everybody is going to have the same experience giving birth. Everybody goes through something different. So, this is my personal experience, and I hope that you get something out of it, maybe to maybe prepare yourself or I guess give yourself an idea of what you might want to expect. So, let's talk about your water breaking. I actually induced my labor by eating pineapple for every meal and snack for 3 days straight. What pineapple does is it helps to tighten the stomach muscles. And when it tightens, it contracts, which means you start having contractions. It starts to tear the lining of your uterus, which means your water breaks. And what it feels like is, for me, it felt like, I guess, a popping sensation, kind of like a bubble popped down there, and it happened while I was using the bathroom. So it kind of scared me a little bit. The next thing that I want to talk to you about is when I actually went into the hospital. They immediately gave me Pitocin, and they called in the anesthesia person, anesthesiologist to come in and give me the epidural. Some people have a good experience with the epidural, some people don't. For me, I kind of hated it. As soon as she stuck the needle in, it was just an enormous amount of pain, and it like shot like a bolt of lightning down my leg, down my right leg. And she even warned me that you're gonna feel like it's almost like somebody hit your funny bone, but they're doing it over and over and over again. And I'm like, oh great. So that was my experience with the epidural. I actually was in labor for 12 hours. So from the time that I first got the epidural to the time that the baby actually came, my epidural wore off twice. So I had to have a second dose of epidural right before I started pushing, and during my pushes is when the epidural wore off. So I felt everything, every little thing, every little push, all of it. And it was horrible. For me, my doctor told me that the baby was going to be like 7.5 pounds. That wasn't the case. She actually came out 9 pounds 5 ounces, and apparently that was too big for my pelvis. We didn't realize it until it was too late, but I definitely should have had a C-section. She got stuck inside of me, and what I mean by inside of me is I mean her shoulder got stuck in my pelvis. So they, after trying to push and after the head being out, they had to call in a second team to come in. And a second doctor came in, and she stuck her hands up there, moved the baby, and yanked her out along with everything else, like baby, placenta, all that came out. And it was just like, I was in shock. I really was. I was in shock the entire time. After the baby came, I guess the drugs started to wear off a little bit. I was dizzy. I was foggy. I was kind of like, didn't really know what was happening, what was going on. I was just like having an out of body experience. It was so weird. Like, I didn't feel like myself, and I felt the postpartum depression setting in already. Speaking of which, that lasted for about 2 weeks for me. So, everybody experiences postpartum depression differently. Some people get it later on, like my friend Lori, who is, I guess, just now starting to really have it set in. At first, I felt like I could leave my child at Walmart and not care. But at the same time, in my mind, I'm like, that's my baby. I'm not gonna do that. Um, but yeah, in my mind, I knew that it was the hormones talking. It wasn't me, because I wouldn't do something like that, no matter how depressed I was. Luckily for me, I was already on 100 milligrams of Zoloft a day, so that kind of helped me to bounce back pretty quickly. So, the second thing that we talked about was our most common fears. What I noticed is that everybody there had either similar or the same fears, such as, hold on a minute. There we go. For me, I really didn't sleep for the first month, just because I was constantly staring at her, making sure she was still breathing in the middle of the night. I'm only just starting to really get sleep because she's sleeping probably 8 to 9 hours a night, which is awesome. I guess, let's see. I mean, even now, I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and if I don't hear her breathing, I'll wait for her to make a noise before I go back to sleep. That's how scary it is. But from what I've noticed, your mind really does go to some really dark places. For instance, if you leave the baby in the room by herself, you worry about if she's going to fall off the bed, is she going to fall off the couch, is she somehow going to get herself out of the bassinet and fall to the ground and hit her head. You start to worry about, whether or not your husband's going to smack her in the middle of the night because he's a sleep talker or sleepwalker like mine is. You even have nightmares about your baby drowning or being taken from you in some sort of way. One of the biggest fears is that you leave the baby home with your spouse and you're out grocery shopping and he just doesn't tend to her needs. Like if he hears her crying, he's just going to ignore her or he's going to shake her until she dies. That's probably one of the biggest fears that some women have. And nowadays, you even have to worry about things like whether or not you can trust your family or your friends around your kids because you don't know if they have a dark side that, they're going to abuse your kids in the most horrific ways that you can possibly think of. I mean, your fears they really get to you. They give you a lot of anxiety, and most women have the same fears. So obviously, it's a hormonal thing, you know. I would say, don't really worry about it. Those fears are going to come, and they're going to go just as fast as they come. So another one of the big subjects that we talked about was breastfeeding. Some of the girls were wondering, I guess, how it's going for some of us. We're coming up on month 3, and I'm starting to know I'm starting to notice a little bit less of a milk production, which means I'm probably starting to dry up, which means soon I'm probably going to have to start supplementing for formula, which I'm not happy about. I do still have some milk frozen in the freezer, but it's still kind of sad. I know that the average woman, maybe 20 something years ago, used to be able to breastfeed up to a year, maybe even 2 years. The average woman nowadays can feed probably until 3 months. That's when they start drying up. Lots of people can still go further, but I guess I'm pretty average, which kind of sucks. But I didn't have a lactation specialist. I just went for it. She's a pretty good latcher. I suggest that if you're having trouble latching, get a lactation specialist. If it doesn't work out, you can always pump. Pumping is probably the best way to get the breast milk out and supplement with formula, because it's better to feed your child than it is to wait for her to latch onto your boob. You don't want your child to starve. So if you have to, feed them formula. That's my suggestion. And that's what I did for a little while, even after we got home, because I still wasn't producing a lot of milk. It did come in suddenly, and it came in a lot. I probably pumped about 4 bottles full at one point, which was awesome. But she didn't need that much. So the last and final thing that we talked about was just a couple of products that we found useful. Honestly, everything is useful. You'll always find a use for everything. I've already kind of mastered a couple of skills, like using the bathroom and breastfeeding at the same time, cooking and breastfeeding at the same time, doing laundry with my daughter attached to me, just little things like that. A while back, I even mastered picking things up with my feet. So I can hold my daughter and pick things up off the floor with my feet, kind of like a monkey. But that's pretty much all of the subject matter that we talked about. And I just want to give a shout out to the girls that I met yesterday. You guys are awesome. You rock. And I hope that we get to spend more time together in the future. And hopefully, we can see those little babies soon. So, y'all have a good night, and subscribe to my blog so that you can see more.